right, remember February, we are doing our lead generation series. So last week, if you missed it, we covered general lead generation, the theory and thought process behind it, how to set up your lead generation strategies. And then for the rest of the month, we will be deep diving into some different aspects of or different types of lead generation. We also did touch last week on leads from listings. So if you didn't catch last week's training, we do general lead gen at the beginning, and then I kind of dive into making sure that you're generating those leads from your existing listings at the end. Today, we are going to dive into open houses. So let's talk about creating systems and processes around open houses. And again, there's no one method that's right or wrong for lead gen when it comes to real estate. I recommend that you have what we call 5 legs or 5 different types of lead generation that you're working on. The first one should always be your database. So we talked about that in the month of January. Go back and watch those trainings if you missed them. We talked about how to build your database, how to set up your database, how to interact with that database. So that should be your first leg of lead generation or your first type. The second should be leads from listings. We should work to always generate leads from your existing listings. My goal, again, last week I touched on this, is to generate at least 3 significant leads from each listing. And then in addition to that, you should choose 3 additional methods of lead gen. That being said, we touched on this last week. We should be working to master one before we fully focus in on those other 2. So you get to pick which forms of lead gen you want to do. I personally am a fan of open houses. That doesn't mean it's your cup of tea. It doesn't mean that's something you should do. But with all forms of lead generation, we should be setting up systems and processes around that. So if open houses isn't your jam, still watch this. You might get something out of it, and it'll show you the idea behind setting up those systems and processes into daily actionable steps. So let's dive in. The benefits of open houses. This is why I like them, right? Generally speaking, agents either love them or they hate them. And based on your attitude about them, they will work for you or they won't. Okay. I'm a big proponent of if you go in expecting results, you're going to get those results. For many new agents, I feel like open houses are the single most cost-effective way to generate leads and make money right away. So I highly recommend, if you're a new agent, that you start with open houses as a form of generating leads. And then later on, you can always exchange it out for another form of lead generation. Okay. It doesn't have to be your forever method. Okay. Some of the benefits of open houses. Number 1, lead generation. Every single attendee is a potential buyer, seller, or both. Okay. So you should see them that way. Next is marketing exposure for your active sellable listing inventory, right? So even though it's not common, there have been offers made on the actual property being held open. If it's not your listing you're holding open, then you're getting exposure. Your signs are out there, your name's getting recognized, you're getting to build relationship and rapport with people. It's a good investment of your time. Open houses can be the most cost-effective prospecting activity if done properly. They actually don't have to cost you anything potentially. And worst case scenario, if no one shows up, you're going to be at that open house with other admin type tasks that you can be doing, follow-up calls, mailers, and thank you cards, right? Other busy work. So you're going to get something done even if nobody shows up. Okay. If you have a repeatable system and process in place, though, you're doing things throughout the week leading up to your open house, my guess is you will never have an empty open house. Okay. So for open houses to be successful, preparation and planning is required. So attitude is everything. So before we dive into those systems and processes of open house, let's just touch on this a little bit. You need to go into your open house or any form of lead generation, okay, believing that it can and will be productive, that you're going to get something out of that open house. You want to plan, prepare, and get to know the property and the market. So as you will see, you need to know everything you can about the property you're holding open and be knowledgeable about the local market and other neighborhood listings in order to be successful, right? We need to be the area expert. I recommend for open houses that you dress professionally. Okay. Only 1% of homes sell from the open house. So your primary intention by hosting that open house is to be hired by prospective buyers and sellers that walk into that open house. So this is your first impression. Make sure that you present yourself in a way that says, hire me. Okay. So although I might wear hoodies 99% of the time, I would never wear one to an open house. You want to look professional. You want that to be your first interview with these potential buyers and sellers. All right. And something else to keep in mind as well is, above all else, you need to keep in mind safety first. Okay, some safety tips for hosting open houses. Number one, never host an open house alone. Get a lender, an insurance agent, a home inspector, a brother, sister, spouse, adult, child, or if all else fails, get another agent to host it with you. Okay. The nice thing about having like a lender or other vendor host with you is that you're not competing for the same leads. And in fact, oftentimes you can help each other turn the leads from captured into connected together. Okay, right? So if I'm co-hosting with a lender, we're both going home with the leads. We're both trying to contact and interact with those leads. So if the lender makes success, they're going to let us know. And if we get success reaching out to those leads, we're going to let the lender know. So it's kind of like a tag team approach. So we're getting more interactions with them, right? So my first choice for co-hosting with somebody, be a lender, insurance agent, home inspector, right? Somebody that can add value to that open house and to the buying or selling process. If you do decide to go and host the open house with another agent, go into that open house with an agreement as to how leads and resulting transactions will be handled that come from that open house. Okay, go in ahead of time. And just so you know, oftentimes it's usually like a split of whatever transactions come from it, versus like, hey, you get a lead, I get a lead. Because what happens is when we're in that open house is we're building rapport with different leads, or sometimes both of us are building rapport with one lead. And so that like splitting of the leads doesn't always work. So usually it kind of turns into co-transactions, but just go into it with an idea of, or with an agreement in place of what's going to happen after the open house with those leads. In addition to not hosting it alone, make sure someone that cares about you, like your spouse, significant other, friend, parent, knows the address of the house that you are holding open. They know the hours that you will be there, along with your anticipated return time. Also, it's a good idea to have a code word you can use to, if you call in trouble, right? So if like something funky's happening, I pick up to call my phone, to call my person. Instead of saying, hey, I need help or whatever, you may want to be like, hey, the tree outside has dropped some leaves, right? I don't know, whatever it is, peaches, right? So some sort of code word that they would recognize that says, hey, I'm in help. I'm in trouble and I need help. Okay. In addition to that, it's a good idea to have the local emergency number saved to your phone. So most police departments have a local emergency number that you can call that takes you straight into their dispatch center, versus calling 911, where it may go to the CHP dispatch center when you call it from your cell phone. Okay. You want to be routed to that local dispatch rather than calling and just getting routed to like the sheriff's department or the CHP 911, because oftentimes that local one's going to lead to a faster response time in case of emergency. And in fact, I often take that local number and put like an asterisk in front of it, or some sort of punctuation or space, so that it shows up at the top of my phone. Or it might be a Vacaville emergency, right? So I might start with A so that it magically is at the very top of my list, or save it to my favorites. That way it's easy access. There are also programs and apps and such that you can download where if you put your thumb on your phone for a period of time or whatever, you have the app on, then it automatically calls the emergency 911 number for you. So there's other options out there in staying safe, but you always want to be safe. So in addition to those tips, some additional tips are, as long as the weather is nice, leave all the doors open. That allows for quick exit if required. And that includes making sure the side gates are unlocked and can be quickly opened. Okay, if the weather is nasty and it's pouring down buckets of rain like it has been this week, we may not want to leave the doors open, but we do want to make sure all the doors are unlocked and those side gates are unlocked. That way, if we've got to go out that back door to get away from whatever's happening, we're not trapped in that backyard. Okay, always position yourself between visitors and the exits. That's going to allow for you to escape if necessary. So don't like lead somebody into a bedroom. You would allow them to go first so that you are between them and that exit path. Okay, don't get cornered in a room. And as always, trust your gut. If you feel uneasy, question a visitor's motives, just step outside and assess the situation. Don't hesitate to call for help. It's always best to have help show up and not need it than not call them and need help. Okay, so don't hesitate to step outside. And finally, make sure to scan that property before you start your open house to make sure that all the valuables, prescription medications, things like that are tucked out of the way and out of sight. Now, as part of our process, we're going to remind the listing agent, or if we're the listing agent, we're going to remind our sellers to do this ahead of time, but we always want to scan the house when we get there. Any questions about why we host open houses or staying safe during your open house? All right. And as always, I do have the chat box open. So if you're not available to unmute yourself, which you can at any time and interrupt me, you can throw it in the chat box as well, or just raise your little zoomy hand. If you're watching this on a repeat, feel free to throw it in the comment section if you have questions, or reach out to me directly. All right. So to prepare for your open house, I would make sure that you always have everything you need. So I would create what I call an open house kit. So I'd probably keep it in like a crate or a box or a tote, right? Like a plastic Tupperware tote. To make sure I have everything I need. I'm going to make sure in that I have business cards, buyer handbooks, right? Personal marketing materials. So maybe materials that showcase renting versus owning, or tips for sellers to prepare their home for sale. I would make sure to have a tape measure, because it never fails that someone wants to measure to see if their couch or bedroom set's going to fit. I had a client that actually bought me a tape measure because they had a boat that they wanted to make sure fit in the garage. So they were always bringing their tape measure. And as a closing gift, they got me my own. I actually had one, but it was only like 10 feet. And they're like, Amy, you need a real tape measure. So they got me like a full size, like 50-foot tape measure. But anyways, so make sure you've got that tape measure. Let's see here. Make sure to have a table and chair if the home is vacant, right? I usually carried along like a TV tray, something foldable, or like a card table or something to that effect, like a small table, so that I can have my sign-in area or a place to like present materials. And then a chair in case it's a slow open house, I have the ability to sit down. If it's not vacant, it's not a problem. Make sure to always have a flashlight. You want to make sure to have a bunch of sign-up-in sheets in that, or evaluation forms, along with a pin. Or if you're using a digital sign-in, you may want to keep your tablet in that open house success kit, along with extra charging cables for both your phone and that tablet, right? So whatever method you choose, make sure you have that set and ready to go. Also, don't forget to make sure that you have some buyer representation agreements and the limited property showing representation, right? The short-term and the long-term buyer rep agreements, in case you've got a buyer that then wants to go see some open homes or wants to hire you as their agent, that you can take care of that right there on the spot. You also want to make sure that you have that open house non-visitor agency sign-in document. Okay, now if it were me and I was hosting open houses on a regular basis, I would probably take that open house visitor non-agency document and write it up so that it's nice and pretty. And I would buy a frame and put it in the frame. And then that way it's something that goes on the sign-in table that visitors should read. And then as part of my sign-in sheet or my property evaluation sheet, I'm going to put on there that they are signing that they've seen and read the open house visitor non-agency agreement. Okay. In addition, you may want to have a framed advisory letting people know that the seller requires them to sign in for safety and security of the property. And it may also be a good time to include that there may be recording devices present in the property, right? So all these things that we're supposed to let potential purchasers or viewers of the property know. I like to put them in nice frame things. They go in my open house box, and then that way I always have them. I can pull them out and put them out on the table. And then I've got separate sign-in sheets. So this is a good time to make sure you highlight all of those items. I might also include some waters and snacks in my box, not necessarily for the visitors of the open house, but in case you get thirsty or need a snack, because we want you at the top of your game. However, if it is something you can absolutely have waters and snacks for the guests, it's not a requirement. It depends what your budget is. So most of the open house kit items are going to double for your showing kit when you're out showing properties. So it's dual purpose for a win, right? So we can keep that in our car, even if you've got space, so that anytime you're out showing properties, you might need some water. The people you're showing properties to might need some water or snacks. They might have kids, right? So it's always good to have a property showing kit, which can double as that open house kit. Any questions about that before we move along? All right. Now let's start about systems and processes. So we are talking about open houses for the purpose of lead generation today. This isn't like on a whim, I decided I needed to host an open house, or Shauna got sick today and she couldn't host her house open and she asked me to hold it open, which I would gladly go do, right? This is one of my main forms of lead generation. So we want to be there to collect potential and buyer and seller leads. Okay. Only 1% of homes sell from an open house. So we want to have a system in place to execute that makes sure we stay focused on the prize and do the things that are necessary that are going to result in adding people to our database that are going to turn into transactions. Okay. I think the best way to do this is to break it down into daily activities. So we're going to walk through some ideas and for prep and follow up each day of the week. And for the purpose of this training, and again, this is not complete, like you may add to it, take things away. This is just like, hey, here's an idea of how to create a system and process for open houses. For the purpose of this training, we're going to move through the open house system as if you're going to host the open house on either Saturday or Sunday, and that you're going to take days off, 2 of them. Okay. In addition to that, so just kind of keep that in mind as we move through this process. In addition to that, if open houses are part of your lead generation plan, then you should have them written in on your calendar. So you should know today what weekends you're going to be hosting your open houses and what weekends you're going to be off for the rest of the year. Okay. And don't underestimate the time of taking, the power of taking time off each week. So if you're hosting the open house on the weekend, think about another time that you can be off so that you can relax and recharge your batteries. Okay. Don't let hosting an open house on the weekend cause you to work 7 days a week. Okay. So we're going to assume that we're off and we're going to start this process on Tuesday. Okay, so we're going to take time off on Sunday and Monday. We're going to host our open house on Saturday, which means we're going to start this open house process on Tuesday. So this is day number 1, which means you need to first select the home that you are going to host open. Okay, that's your Tuesday main activity. Pick the house. And you may want to start by determining what time the home will be open. I would guess the open house, I would recommend the open house be somewhere between 2 and 4 hours long. And you can try different times on different days to see what works best for you. I highly recommend like a 2-hour open house with 30-minute for a pre-open for the neighbors. But having that date and time already set up, like, hey, I'm looking for an open house on Saturday from 12 to 2. Or from 11:30 to 2, because I'm going to do a 30-minute open house for the neighbor first, pre-open, right? Having that date and time helps when you go to talk to other, either your sellers or other agents about holding their home open. Okay, having it specific. Hey, I'd like to host an open house on this date at this time. It makes it easier for them to say yes or no. Okay. So make sure you have that time and day in mind when you go to start making those phone calls when you pick that house. That being said, home selection is super important. So my first choice is always the host open my own listing. Okay. So if you have a listing, that's always my first choice. If you don't have your own listing, or maybe your listing is in a bad location, then we may need to start reaching out to other agents in our office to see if they have a listing they could hold open, that you could hold open. Okay. First choice outside of my own listing is if I have a farm area, a frequent area of repetitive marketing, I'm going to look for a listing inside my farm first. Okay. Because that's just going to serve dual purpose. So my own listing first, then if I have a farm, I'm going to choose that. Outside of those two, I'm going to look for highly desired homes, and those are going to fall into 3 different categories. Okay. You want to look for homes that are new to the market, those that are experiencing their first weekend or second weekend on the market, and those agents aren't choosing to hold those houses open. You'd be surprised to see how many agents don't. Okay. Pick those first. They're just going to get a lot of traffic anyways because they're new to the market. My next option would be homes that are in a category of being low inventory. So if the market is lacking single-story homes, find those. If there's a highly desired neighborhood where listings don't come up often and there's a listing there, snatch that one up. Okay, so low inventory homes. The final category would be homes priced in the mid-range for your market. Okay, I would probably choose to stay away from upper-end homes or bottom of the market, because you're going to pull the biggest opportunity of potentially qualified buyers and sellers for homes that are in the middle of the market. So once we've kind of selected some options of homes that we might host open, we want to make sure that we consider the location of the home. Okay, is that location easy to find? If it takes 10 signs just to get to the house, people aren't going to make it there. They're going to give up even if you have plenty of signage. So choose a home that only takes a couple of turns from the main road to get to, right? And then also find homes that are nearby amenities such as schools, recreation, and shopping. That's going to help you draw in more visitors. Okay. So once we identify which group of homes we're thinking we might reach out to the agents to see if we can host them open, we also want to consider that location. I also, if I'm hosting somebody else's house open, I like to look for vacant homes first. Okay. Then I don't have to worry about things walking away. I've never had something walk away from an open house, just for the record, but there's just less for me to monitor and there's less liability if I'm hosting a vacant home open. Okay. So first task on Tuesday, select the home. Next is, in addition to selecting the house and confirming dates and times, you will want to formally ask the listing agent to put the home in the MLS. If you are the listing agent, you're going to make sure to put that open house in the MLS. Okay. The MLS is going to push it out everywhere else. Okay. All the other sites get pushed out from that MLS. So make sure it's in there. In addition, when we put it into the MLS, there's a little like blurb that you can put in there, like additional comments or whatever. If there's something you're not hosting, it's not your listing, so you're not putting it into the MLS, make sure that you've got a blurb that you want in there, and you say, hey, Iris, can you make sure I just want to make sure and confirm that you're going to put that open house into the MLS for Saturday from 12 to 2. And here's what I would like in the additional comments section. Right? So have that little blurb drawn up and ready to go. Whatever that might be, because it will add to just making sure that listing is complete when it goes in for the open house. Okay, that's a optional item, but I would absolutely have something in there and send it out to the other agent. That way they don't just say, come to the open house. It's more exciting than that. Okay, in addition, on Tuesday, we want to make sure to make the creatives. Okay, that would be making the flyer for promotion and door knocking, making the social media posts so that they're all ready to go. I like to use Canva for those, but you can also use OneDesign. And in either, you can create a folder and have your open house templates ready to go. That way, all you have to do on Tuesday is open your open house template folder, update them with the next address that you'll be holding open. And it just makes it it allows you to simplify that process as much as possible. We're not now scrolling through 50 different potential social media posts and choosing which one we want. We always do the same one. Okay, it just makes it easy, your system easy to follow and repeatable. Okay, it also makes it scalable as you grow your real estate business. Okay, so MLS, create creatives, and the last step for your Tuesday action steps would be to travel to the property and put up the open house sign or the sign writer letting people know that the house will be open. Okay, you can order sign writers with blanks for the time. So it's like open house Saturday, and then it has blanks so that you can fill in as needed. They're not super expensive. Some of them you use like a dry erase marker. You could get like removable stickers with numbers on them, right? So you can pop it on there and take it off. So there's lots of options there. You could also use like a waterproof Avery label or something and just keep posting it over the top if the times change. Those are not super expensive. Like a sign writers, maybe, I don't even think they're 30 bucks a piece. They're usually like 10 to 15 bucks a piece for a sign writer. They're going to help to capture traffic that passes by during the week as well as neighbors, because we want those people choosing to come to the open house, not calling another agent to see the property. So we want people to know it will be held open. Okay, so Tuesday we have open house selection or house selection. We have MLS input, and then create those marketing materials and put up the sign writer. Tuesday activities. It sounds like a lot, but ultimately it's once you start this process, maybe an hour, you'll be able to knock it out minus driving to the property. Okay, it's not going to take you long on a daily basis to accomplish those tasks once you're comfortable and familiar with the system and process. So on Wednesday, this is where our preparation starts. These items are going to support your activities during the rest of the week. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that the listing agent put that listing into the MLS with the correct date and times. If not, fix it. Okay. Next, what I like to do is create a Google Drive folder. I'll talk about this more here in a moment, but just know that I like to use Google Drive for my open houses. On Wednesday, you also want to make sure that your open house kit is stocked and ready to go. Remember that kit that we talked about at the beginning? Make sure that that is ready to go. And I would include copies of all the items that we're going to put in this Google Drive. Make sure you've got those sign-in sheets, waters, and any snacks that will be offered, along with your business cards, PIN, buyer representation agreements, right? Make sure that we've got all of that in there. As a side note, again, like I already mentioned, there's no requirement to offer refreshments. I wouldn't say that refreshments prove to draw in more people. Okay. It's not like we're advertising free cookies. Okay. Although sometimes it is nice, and it has been found that visitors prefer individually wrapped like candies or cookies over just cookies on an open plate. And if you're going to offer refreshments, I would say that you should make sure that they are personally branded with labels. So they have, like, you can buy water bottle labels that are branded to you. So if they take that water bottle out with them, it's got your name and contact information on there, maybe even a QR code to continue their property search. You could do, you know, like bags of popcorn people could take with you that say, thanks for popping by, right? With your contact information on them. So just have everything baggied up, ready to go and branded to you. Next on Wednesday, you're going to want to map the location of where your signs are going to go. Figure out how many signs you need and figure out all those details. I would recommend, even if your house is on a main road, that we have no less than 6 signs. Okay, no less than 6, and more is better. You want to plan to place one at all main access points off the main roads. You should have at least one on each corner and one at the house. Okay, in addition to that, make sure all your signs match, and branded signs are the best, because what happens on a Saturday is you go to place your open house sign on the corner, and there's 5 other open house signs there. And now all of a sudden, if we have generic open house signs that match everybody else's generic open house signs, now my people that were coming to my open house have gotten lost and they don't know which way to turn or which sign to follow. So if we make sure our signs are consistent, they look the same throughout, then it makes it easier to find them. Okay, now That being said, if you don't have your own open house signs yet, you don't have to run out and buy some. Borrow somebody else's signs, even if they're, you know, branded to me per se. At least they all look consistent and the same. They're going to get people to that open house. And then over time, you can get your own signs and host that. But it's better, I would say it's better to have branded signs, even representing somebody else, than it is to have generic signs. Or if you use generic signs, which you can pick them up at like the association, I think they're like 25 or 30 bucks a pop, although it's been a couple of years since I've been down there and looked at them. Go get matching balloons so that you can put balloons on each sign so that people know that, oh, I'm following the signs with the purple balloons or the gold balloons, right? So whatever that is, make sure it's consistent. So it makes it easy for people to follow if we're using those generic signs or any sign. Sometimes balloons can add that pop that will get people there. You may also consider finding a teenager that you can train to put out and pick up your signs for a small payment. I would say that's probably the best thing that I've ever done is let somebody else do the dirty sign work. It's going to prevent you from getting sweaty during the hot weather or drenched in the rain. And it allows you to be at the house prepping, getting it ready as soon as the signs start going up so that any visitors that come by, you're ready, willing, and able to host that open house. So that's always a good option. And then on Wednesday, you also want to identify the neighbors that you're going to door knock. So we want to door knock and invite those neighbors to the open house, because remember, we're looking for listing leads, and we know that someone that can see that for sale sign in that property's yard is going to list their property for sale. So I recommend knocking a minimum of 100 homes. Okay, or maybe like 25 on each side and 50 across the street, right? Kind of keep it in the general proximity. We're going to talk about the actual door knocking and doing that later in the week. Wednesday, we're just getting the list of homes and owners so that we know who to address and whether or not they are owners and renters. We can get those lists from the title company. If you've got access through the title company to the tax records, you can pull those details. So there's lots of ways to get that information. I'm also going to, on Wednesday, identify any for sale by owners or expired listings in the neighborhood. Okay, so I'm going to go on the MLS and I'm going to look in the MLS probably for the last 12 months to see if there's any properties that have expired and not sold in that neighborhood, or any current for sale by owners. Those you aren't going to find in the MLS. Those you're going to search. Usually like Zillow is a pretty good reference for those for sale by owners, but you may also check like Facebook Marketplace or Nextdoor and search properties for sale and see if you can find any there for sale by owners. Okay. You want to have that list with you when you go door knock the neighbors later on so that you can stop by those homes as well to see if they're still available and if they're going to be around after your open house in case any of the buyers that pass through the open might be interested in their property. Okay. You want to be able to know if you can bring them by. So these are off-market gems that can help build your value to potential buyers. And you may potentially get a listing commission as well if you talk with those sellers. So just some ideas there to check out and identify those for sale by owners and those expired listings. Okay, remember, we're looking to level up our game. And then finally, I want to identify any other active listings in that neighborhood, and I want to become familiar with those listings as well. I want to know how the house that I'm holding open compares to those, what the showing instructions are, what the amenities are, the bedroom counts, the bathroom counts, how they differ from the property. That way, if I'm hosting a 3-2 open and somebody walks through and they're like, man, we really needed a 4-bedroom. We love this neighborhood. You can be like, oh, no problem. There's actually a 4-bedroom just around the corner. I close up here at 2. If you want, we can go see that property at 2:30, right? So if we know the neighborhood, we know what's for sale, we know the off-market gems, then that's going to make us the area expert and help us to win those potential buyers. Okay, so Wednesday prep, we're going to start with confirm that MLS input, set up our Google Drive, make sure your box is stocked, map your sign locations, identify your neighbors, identify the FSBOs and expireds, and any other active listings. Okay, for the Google Drive, I like to create a Google Drive for all my open houses. It's where I put all of my materials that a potential visitor might want. So by creating that Google Drive folder, I then can create a shortcut on my phone. So if somebody wants additional information, it makes it really easy for me to just open that folder, pick the document they need, and share it with them, or share the whole folder with a visitor. For everything that I have in the drive, I usually have just one copy of the information at the open house for people to view, because I want to be the controller of the information. And if they want to be able to take that information with them, I want them to have to give me their actual contact information, not what they put on the sign-in sheet that might have been fake, so that I can send it to them or share it with them. Okay, Google Drives are my favorite. In my Google Drive, you're going to find a copy of the property flyer that I created. You're going to find a copy of the list reports, which showcases nearby attractions, schools, amenities. You can explore list reports. It's free at listreports.com, listreports.com. It's just a great option. I've done trainings on it before. You can also search the YouTube channel for previous trainings. Maybe when Abby posts this, she can link them in the comment section or in the description as well. But it's a really handy tool that gives everybody kind of how close restaurants are, what the nearby schools are, what the assigned schools are, and then nearby attractions, like how close is it to Lake Berryessa, or where's the nearest dog park, right? So fun things like that, or outdoor activities, or golfing, or whatever. In addition, I like to include a list of other neighborhood listings. So all those other active listings that I pulled up, I like to make sure I have those in there so that if people want to see what's in the neighborhood. I also like to create lists for potential visitors. So if I am a visitor to this open house and I did not like this house, why would that be? And what do you think I would want instead, right? So for instance, if I'm holding open that 3-bedroom home, someone may be looking for a 4-bedroom home. Or if it doesn't have a pool, they may want a pool, right? So I'm going to have a list in my Google Drive of all the 4-bedroom homes. And I'm also going to have a list of all the area homes with a pool, right? That way it makes it really easy for me to share other potential listings with potential buyers that may want to go see properties later on. Okay, so what if somebody didn't want this house? Why would that be? And what would they be looking for? Would they be looking for a smaller house, a bigger house, more rooms, less rooms, bigger yard, smaller yard, right? Whatever that is. Maybe it's in the wrong school district. Who knows? So I'm going to put those lists into that Google Drive. I'm going to pull those out of the MLS and save them to my Google Drive. Finally, in that drive, I also want to make sure to have any pre-sale inspections, any seller disclosures, a copy of the preliminary title report if pre-escrow is open, and a copy of the tax record. So I'm going to make sure to have that all in there so that people can see what the estimated current or what the current taxes are. So if there's Mello-Roos or any big assessments, it's listed in there. So I'm going to have all that information in my Google Drive. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, we have a quiet group today, but we're going to assume that all makes sense to you, and we're going to continue moving right along. On Thursday, we're going to start the actual promotion. So Wednesday was kind of the prep for promotion. Thursday, we're going to start the actual. So I would send an email to my database to invite them to the open house. Be sure to include the address, times, and details about the listing. We want them to feel welcome to come or welcome to send their friends and family. It's an additional interaction with your database and a potential for buyer referrals. Okay. Next, I'm going to post it on Thursday to my social media. I'm going to post it to my personal, and if I have one, a business page. And I'm also going to share it with any home groups, area happening groups, or the same types of groups for areas that may be considered commuting areas where people might be moving from, right? So if I've got a home open in Vacaville, I might look for the Solano County open houses page or the Solano County homes for sale page, right? And I'm going to share it on there that we're hosting an open house. I may also look for the what's going on in Solano County or the buy and sell groups, right? And post it in there. As I post these into those groups, I'm going to make a list of the groups that I've shared it to so that I have a complete list for future open houses and future promotion of this same open house of the groups that it needs to get posted to. That way, next week, when I have my next open house, I don't have to remember what groups did I post that to or come up with a new list. I've got my list set and ready to go. If I've got a Vacaville open house, this is where it gets posted. If I've got a Fairfield open house, a Dixon open house, a Sacramento open house, I have those open house groups already lined up of where I'm going to share it and post it to. In addition, remember, don't underestimate the power of Nextdoor. Make sure you have a Nextdoor profile and you can go find that neighborhood and share it to that group as well. The other thing that I talked about too was commuting areas. So like if I'm hosting a house open in Fairfield, I may be like, well, the Bay Area, this is a commuter neighborhood. They can get a lot more money or a lot more house for their dollar in Fairfield than they can in Concord. So I might go and post in those groups as well because it's a short commute for people, right? To get more house or more yard for their money. So I may want to post it in those groups as well. On Thursday, in addition, the neighbors that you're going to door knock, we're not door knocking them yet, but if you have their phone numbers, you can call them in a TCPA compliant manner, right? Make sure it's been scrubbed against the do not call list. Or if you have a voicemail system like SlyDial, you can always choose just to drop in a voicemail rather than make the actual phone call. So if you're doing a special time for the neighbors, that like 30-minute pre-open, you can let them know that you've set aside time for them, but that they're welcome anytime, right? So it's a good time to drop that message in there. And then we're going to schedule time to do a quick preview of the active listings the next day. Okay, so we're going to email our database, post the social media, contact the neighbors, and then also we're going to we're going to look back at those active listings in the neighborhood, and I'm actually going to schedule showing appointments for them, and I might call it like a preview appointment if I have to talk with an agent or somebody. Hey, can I set a time to preview your listing for potential clients, right? I'm going to do that on Friday because on Friday, I'm also going to be door knocking in that area. So once I'm done door knocking, I'm going to visit those FSBOs and expireds. And I also want to walk through those active listings. That way I make sure I know the inventory and I'm prepared for any questions that visitors might have, not only regarding the property I'm holding open, but any of the other listings nearby. And then finally on Thursday, we want to outline the expectations. So if you're the listing agent, you're going to communicate these directly to the seller. If you're hosting the house open for another agent, then you're going to send them an email or a text message with instructions. We want to make sure that the seller knows to leave the home 1 hour before the open house and plan not to return for at least 30 minutes after the open house ends. Okay, so if we're holding the open house from 12 to 2 with a pre-open for the neighbors at 11:30, that seller should leave by 10:30. And then they should not return until at least 2:30. Okay, and I'm going to spell that out in the thing that, hey, the open house is going to be hosted. We're doing the neighborhood pre-open from 11:30 to 12, and then the actual open house from 12 to 2. So please instruct the seller to make sure that they have vacated the property by 10:30 and that they do not return again until at least 2:30. In addition to that, we're going to ask them to remove any valuables and prescription medication, or at least tuck them away out of sight. And I always recommend that people not tuck them away in the top drawers of dressers because sometimes nosy people start opening drawers and they usually start with the top one. They usually don't make it further down than that. So I usually recommend in the bottom drawers or lower drawers. And I'm going to ask them to make sure that they also remove any animal items. Okay, this would include like dog beds, actual pets, right? They should not be running around the backyard. We shouldn't have a cat that we can't let escape the house, right? Those animals should be removed. And then we're going to make sure to ask them to leave the house show ready, that it should be picked up, dirty clothes and dishes out of sight, that old pet items be removed from the house along with those pets, as I already mentioned, and let them know that you're going to provide feedback at the end. And then let them know when they can expect to receive that feedback. So if it's going to be the same day, like, hey, I'll provide you feedback by 4 o'clock, or I'll provide you feedback on Tuesday, right? Whatever that time frame is, just let them know because we want to make sure we set those expectations, especially if there are sellers. Okay. Any questions about that Thursday steps? All right. Friday. That's the day that we are going to head outdoors and knock on our head outdoors and knock on doors. That sounded funny to me for some reason. Okay, again, our goal is 100 doors, like 25 on each side, 50 across the street. We already identified whose doors we're going to knock on. We want to invite them to the open house. We could also let them know that there's going to be, potentially increased traffic in the neighborhood, and you just wanted to give them a heads up and that they're welcome to come by the open house. In fact, the owners of the property requested that we do a pre-open just for the neighbors. So although we'll be open from 11:30 to 2 o'clock, we haven't promoted it to the public until it starts at noon. So we would like the neighbors, if you would like to, you're welcome to come by the special open house just for you from 11:30 to 12, right? We want to make them feel special and welcome. Because remember, those could be potential sellers. This is a great time to connect and build relationship with those people so that they can come by and check it out. In addition to door knocking, right? I usually start with door knocking. Then I'm going to go by those FSBO and expired listings. I'm going to knock on their doors as well and leave a note behind if they don't answer. My goal here is to, again, build relationship and see if they're still interested in selling their home. You can let them know that you're holding an open house nearby and want to know if they're still interested in selling in case a potential buyer comes through and they're not interested in the home that we're holding open. Okay, it's also a good time if they're home to go ahead and do a quick tour of the home to build further relationship, figure out why it didn't sell, if it's expired, why they think it didn't sell, or to see why they're listing it for themselves if it's a for sale by owner. Okay, message to expired listings, something like this. Hello, Mr. or Mrs. Expired. My name is Amy with Realty One Group Fox, and I see that your home expired a month ago. There is a listing at 123 Sample Street that is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home listed at $500,000. I'm holding an open house tomorrow from 12 to 2, and we've been getting massive attendance in this area. Should we have additional buyers that are interested in the open house, would you be open to reviewing offers on your home if it is a good match for one of our buyers? Right? If they answer yes, then you would say, great, can I preview your home so that I might present the features to qualified buyers, right? We're just building that relationship and that rapport. Make sense to everybody? Go door knock those expired and FSBOs in that area with a message more than just, hey, I want to list your home. It's going to be, hey, we might have extra buyers, and are you still interested in selling? Okay, so that's our Friday. So far we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's 4 days of pre-promotion. Game day Saturday. I don't know why I said Friday because I was looking at the wrong slide. Friday, or Saturday. Saturday is showtime. So after 4 days of prep, we've reached game day. So it doesn't matter whether you're hosting on Saturday or Sunday, the process is going to be the same. The day of the open house, you're going to want to repost it on social media, the same sites and groups as your previous posts. Okay, it's going to be really easy because you wrote all those down. You've got your system and process in writing and planned out. We want to make sure to review the listing details and the Google Drive to make sure that everything is there and is accurate and that you know everything there is to know about the property. In addition, balloons. I mentioned these earlier. They're kind of like candy for adults. They draw people in like crazy, so put them on your signs. In addition, as previously mentioned, it makes it easy for people to follow your signs and not get distracted by other open house signs. If they're like, oh, follow the gold balloons, right? I'm going to arrive to the house early. Okay. If I am doing my own signs, I'm going to go set out my own signs. I'm going to arrive at least 45 minutes before the start, if not an hour before the start of my open house to the property itself. If someone else is doing my signs, then I'm going to arrive probably closer to 30 minutes early before the open house is supposed to start. So if the neighbor open house starts at 11:30 and somebody else is doing my signs, I'm arriving by 11. If I'm doing my own signs, I'm going to arrive at that house by 10:30. When I arrive at the open house, I'm going to open all the curtains. I'm going to turn on all the lights. And I'm going to adjust the temp so that it's comfortable, right? I want this house to shine. I don't care if it's 2 o'clock on July 15th and the sun is shining bright. I want all the windows and curtains open because I want that house to look light and bright and spacious and airy. Okay. I'm also going to bring some smell good with me in case I need to freshen up the house. A little drop of like vanilla extract on a hot burner does wonders for the smell of a home. Okay. So I might have a little bottle of vanilla in my open house kit, or maybe I've got like a diffuser in my open house kit. So I can bring that diffuser in and diffuse the scent of my choice. In addition, I'm going to do a walkthrough of the home to make sure valuables and meds are put away. That there aren't any undies or bras laying about. I'm also going to pick up the bath mats and tuck those away as well. I don't like bath mats on the floors in the bathrooms when we have open houses. Number one, I think that's just gross that like you have people coming through your home and who knows where their feet have been and now they've walked on your bath mats. Gross. Who wants to use those? And also I think the room just looks more spacious when there's not extra things on the ground. So usually like if it's a bath mat in front of like a tub or a shower, I'm going to like put it over the edge of the tub or over the top of the shower. So something to that effect. And I'm going to make sure to tuck any of those valuable items or meds away. I'm going to make notes of what I did as I went through the property. That way I can let the sellers know, or I can review those notes once I'm done and getting ready to close up and pull those things back out. I'm also going to set up my sign-in table, okay, and make sure everything is ready to go inside that home. Once the house is ready to be shown, that's when I'm going to leave to go start putting out my signs. Okay, I'm going to lock the door with all the lights on, curtains open, house ready to go. It smells nice. Everything's been picked up. I'm going to turn around, lock the door, take the key with me, and then I'm going to go put out my signs. Okay, that way, if people follow me back from putting up my signs, all I have to do is open the door and the house is ready to go. If somebody else is doing my signs, I get there 30 minutes ahead of time. So by the time they start putting out signs, I've got the house open and ready to go. If I'm doing my own signs, I'm going to start with the signs that are the furthest away, and I'm going to work my way back towards the house. So remember, we already made a plan of where those open house signs are going to go. I'm going to look at that plan and I'm going to start the furthest away and work my way back in. This may also be a good opportunity before people arrive to do a Facebook Live post with the tour of the home, and make sure to give the times and the address for the open so that people can swing by. Okay. Keep in mind that this pre-show, this preparation should be 30 to 45 minutes before the neighbor open if you're doing that, or before the open house. Okay. So we're going to get the home ready before we even start putting signs out. Then it's showtime, right? So this is what we've been preparing for all week. You're going to have all visitors sign in. You can use a QR code with a digital sign-in experience or paper sign-ins. I like to use like small clipboards with half sign-in sheets, and I like to use one sheet per person or per party so that I can make notes on the back detailing who they were, notes about our conversations. Okay, I want to be able to, when I finish for the day or 2 days later, when I go to review and get those people into my database, I want to be able to look at that and be like, oh yeah, that was the family with 2 kids. And we talked about the fact that they were moving up from Concord to the Vacaville area. Here's what they were looking for, right? I want those details of what we talked about. So Mark's question is, what if a client does not want to sign in? Mark, for me, sign in is non-negotiable. Also, with all the new regulations and rules through the NAR settlement, it makes it even easier to say, actually, it's a requirement as part of the NAR settlement. I can't actually legally let you pass through the home without signing in, because of the fact that you've got to read this non-agency agreement before you pass through the property. So you can use that as your excuse. I have turned people away before. Remember, my goal is to pick up potential buyers and sellers. And if these people don't even want to sign in, then they probably aren't interested in buying or selling a home anyhow, or at least through me. They're not serious. They're probably looking to, steal something from the home, whatever it might be. I have always had people sign into my open houses, and I turn people away who don't want to. So that's just my rule. I'm not afraid to do that. Especially if the house is occupied and there's people's stuff in it, that's why I have a sign, hey, for the safety and security of the property, all visitors must sign in. Now you could add for the safety and security of the property, as well as because of the NAR settlement, all visitors must sign in. Okay. Let's see here. Sometimes I do just a sign-in sheet. I like to have one party per sign-in sheet, as I already mentioned, because I would be more reluctant if it was a sign-in sheet with 10 different people's sign-ins on it, like a bulk sign-in sheet. I'm going to be more likely to put fake sign-in information because I don't want other people seeing my email or my phone number than I would on like a half sheet. I'm probably going to be more honest on a half sheet. That's my theory behind my thought process. So I assume everybody thinks the same as I do. So that's why I like to do the half sheets, as well as it allows me, like I said, to flip it over and make notes on the back for each visitor of what happened or what the conversation was. And then sometimes I do like evaluation forms where they actually take them through the property with them, and provide feedback on the home. Number one, if it's my listing, I've just gotten valuable feedback for my sellers on what potential buyers think as they pass through the home. If it's another agent's listing, I want to provide them value. So I want them to ask me anytime they have listings coming on the market to host their open houses, right? So if I'm like, hey, every time I host an open house, here's how many people pass through. Here was the feedback that I received. Here was, everything that I heard. Then they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I love when Amy hosts my open houses because I've always got something to give back to my sellers to report back on. I don't seem like an agent that doesn't know what's going on. So I like feedback. Make sure to engage all visitors as they come into the property. Ask them if they've seen other homes. How are they seeing them? What are they looking for? What's their time frame to buy a home or sell a home? What's spurring them to look at properties, right? We're trying to get information on their time frame and their why and build relationships. Okay. In addition to that, so before I move on, the other thing to note too is if they say they're working with an agent, I will ask them who they're working with and get that agent's information. On my sign-in sheets, I don't ask them if they're working with an agent because most people will lie and just say yes to think that you're not going to contact them in the future. Okay, I don't like liars. So I don't ask that question, but I'm going to try to fish it out of them without asking it. And if they are in a relationship with another agent, I'm going to respect that relationship. I'm not going to try to bamboozle them into using me as their agent if I've detected they have another agent, which is part of the reason I say, hey, have you looked at other homes? Oh, are you just going through open houses or do you have somebody showing those? Oh yeah, our agent's showing them. Right now I'm like, oh, that's pretty legit. Like they've saved this in other homes, our agent's showing them. Perfect. Who's your agent? Right? That way I can let the other, if I'm hosting it for another agent, or if it's my own listing, I can then reach out to that agent and say, hey, your buyers passed through my open house over the weekend. And I just wanted to see if they had any thoughts or feedback on it. Right? Or I can pass that agent's name and number off to the other agent whose listing it is so that they can follow up with them. All right. In addition to that, I'm going to make it my goal to set appointments with potential clients at the open house for either buyer presentations, showings of other properties, or potential listing appointments. Okay, if I can get commitment to an appointment at the open house, they're going to be much more likely to follow through than if I just say, hey, I'll touch base with you later that week. Okay, so make sure to set the appointment. Have appointment time slots ready to go. Is morning or afternoon better? Great. It's Saturday. Do weekends or weekdays work better for you, right? And get that appointment set. And then, of course, remember to smile and have fun because all of these visitors could be future clients. Okay, so that's during showtime. Now, when we get closer to the end of the open house, or if you've got like a lull in your open house, record a thank you video. And I'm going to tell you more about that in the future, but just set that on your mind during showtime. If you've got some downtime, you could go ahead and record that thank you video. And you may also want to bring some admin work with you. That way, if the open house is slow, you still have a productive day. So, thank you cards to write, your computer so you can enter things into the database, whatever it might be, so you can clean up your database, right? So whatever that is, bring it with you so that you can work on that if there's any downtime. Any question about showtime or pre-show before we move on to closing time? All right, closing time. So after the open house, you're going to want to return the house to its original condition. So secure those doors and windows, close them, lock them, turn off lights, unhide any items that you may have stashed prior to the start of the open house, return the thermostat to the temperature it was when you arrived, right? If I'm picking up my own signs, then oftentimes prior to closing the house down, I'm going to lock the house up and I'm going to go collect those signs first. Okay, so before I do all that close down procedure, I'm going to lock it, go pick up the signs, come back and close the house down. I may even leave a little note for the sellers in case they return. Hey, I'm just picking up my signs. I'll be back shortly to close the house up, or to close the house up, right? So you may want to leave a little sign just in case they come back early. I'm going to go collect those signs and return to close down the house. That prevents late people from arriving when the house is not open and ready to be shown. I do not want people, as I'm getting ready, the house is dark, everything's closed up and dark. Everything's been put back out like it was when I arrived. I don't want to be locking the door and have someone drive up and be like, oh, I saw the signs for the open house. Is it too late? Because I'm going to feel obligated to say yes, but now the house isn't ready. Not only that, but I'm letting a stranger into a dark house, which is a safety and security risk. Okay, so I usually pick up my signs first, then go back and close down the house. If somebody's picking up my signs for me, then I wait until close time and then I start closing down the house. Okay, so in addition, before I close down the house completely, I'm going to record a quick thank you video in front of the key feature of the home. Okay, the feature that I'm going to use may be a positive feature or a negative feature. It doesn't really matter. Just pick the most memorable feature of that home, right? So if it's got a gorgeous backyard, I may be out in the backyard in front of the pool doing the open house, or the kitchen, if it's an amazing kitchen, or maybe it's got this really tacky wallpaper on one of the walls in the room, right? I may be in front of that wallpaper because they're going to remember, oh yeah, that was that tacky house. That agent was really funny, right? Whatever that was. So the goal here is we want to thank people for coming to our open house, and we want to let them know that we're available to assist them with all of their real estate needs. We're going to send that out later as part of our follow-up plan, but we want to record that video before we leave. If the sellers return prior to you leaving, brief the sellers and on how the open house went. You don't have to get into details. You can just say, oh yeah, it was super successful. We had about 10 groups through, or yeah, we got some good feedback. I'll get that back to you later, right? Whatever that is. So you can brief the sellers. If they haven't returned, you may want to leave them a quick note or a card, just thanking them for allowing you to host their home open and providing any brief feedback. The goal here, when we're either in person with the sellers or, closing up or leaving feedback on the card, is to focus on the positive. Okay. We'll get down to the real feedback later, but we want to focus on the positive here. We want them to feel good about the fact that they left their house for us. Next thing that you want to do is you want to provide feedback to the listing agent. Let them know how many groups pass through, any feedback on the listing that you obtained. I usually do this as I'm in my car getting ready to pull away from the property. That way I can let the listing agent know that, hey, the open house is completed. It was successful. I've returned the house to the condition it was in before I hosted the open house. You can let the sellers know that they can return. I'm going to provide how many groups pass through, and then the actual feedback on the listing that I obtained, both positive and negative. And then I'm going to pass along any information on any agents that pass through, or if their clients pass through and gave me their agent's information. So I'm going to pass all that along. They are not getting my leads from the open house. They're just getting agents' information, number of parties, and feedback. Okay, I like to do that again before I pull away so that the sellers know they can return. If it's my own listing, then as I'm getting ready to pull away, I'm going to send them a text message and say, hey, seller, thank you so much for letting me host your house open today. I'm all done. It's locked up and ready for you to return whenever you're done with your afternoon's activities. I'll provide you feedback on, Monday or Tuesday, whenever you told them you were going to provide feedback. But you might want to say, hey, it went really well. I'll get you detailed feedback, on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Or whatever that time was. All right. I would schedule a little time after my open house, right? My day's not done yet. That was only 2.5 hours. Well, let's say 4 hours of my day from start to finish. So I want to schedule a little bit more time, 30 minutes, to send out that thank you video to everyone that attended. It's not going to take long because I already recorded a generic video. I didn't say any names. I said, hey, thanks so much for passing through my open house today at 123 Sample Street. I hope you enjoyed the cowboy wallpaper. If you need any help, if this cowboy wallpaper was not the right fit for you, that's not a problem. I can help you with all your real estate needs anywhere in the greater Solano County area, up into Sacramento and Yolo counties as well, right? So you might want to cover that. And then we're going to send out that thank you video to everybody that passed through. It's not going to take long, and it's going to be the key step to starting the follow-up right away before someone else scoops them up or before they forget about you. Remember, if they pass through your open house, they probably pass through somebody else's open house as well. So the squeaky wheel gets the worm. No, that's not how that works. It's the early bird gets the worm, but the squeaky wheel gets the attention. So we want to make sure to be that squeaky wheel. We want to say, hey, thank you so much. We want to show them that, hey, we're trying to earn their business. Okay. Any questions about closing time? We've gone over on time. I apologize. I'm going to go into the follow-up real quick. So if you want to stick around for that, I'd appreciate it. Otherwise, you can catch the replay of this. But let's talk about the follow-up plan. So on the day of the open, we sent out the thank you video to all the visitors of the open house. My goal for the first week is at least 12 interactions, right? We talked about this last month. We'll talk about it again and again. But it should be a 12-by-1 plan. It's going to consist of at least 5 text messages, 4 emails, and 3 phone calls. Okay, step 1 was the video text. Step 2 is to add them to your database and make sure you group and tag them appropriately like we learned last month. Okay, so on the day of the open house, I'm just going to send out that thank you video. On the next day, I'm back at work. This is going to be my follow-up day 1 where I'm going to make sure to get them in my database and tag them. In addition to that, I'm going to want to send them a thank you card in the mail if I was able to capture their address or if I can track it down, because that's a bonus interaction that's going to be really beneficial. For anyone that I set an appointment with, you're going to skip the 12-by-1 and you're just going to proceed with confirming the appointment. Okay, we don't have to continue to interact with them. If we set an appointment with them, my thank you may be specific for them as well. That thank you video, it may be, I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Okay. And I'm going to continue to confirm that appointment up until the appointment day and time. Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. Once you meet with them, once you meet with those people that you already have an appointment scheduled for, they're going to roll over to that 30+ interaction plan. They're going to bypass the 12-by-1 and the 8-by-8 and the 19 to connect. They're just going to go straight to the 30 because they've met with us. They recognize our name. Those that didn't schedule appointment are going to go on that 12-by-1. So the open house day, they get a thank you text message. Remember, we're assuming that we're working only follow-up days. We're only working 5 days. So our follow-up plan is going to encompass only 5 days to make all of those interactions. That's why there's 5 text messages, 4 emails, and 3 phone calls. Okay, on the day of the open house, before you're done, you send out that thank you video that you recorded in front of the key feature of the house. That's text number 1. On day 1 of our 5-day week, you're going to add them to your database. You're going to send out that thank you card in the mail, and you're going to set up a property search based on the information that you know about them from the open house. It's okay if you're guessing, okay, because we're going to text them. We're going to let them know that I set them up with a property search based on the following criteria and ask them what they would like us to adjust. Not, would you like me to adjust something, but what criteria would you like me to change to make it more specific to your search? We want them to respond with something besides yes or no. Okay, so that's day 1. Day 2 of our 5-day week, we're going to send them an email with our preferred lenders. And remember, you should always recommend 3. You're also going to call them. If they answer, it's a good time to see if they're getting the property search emails or if they want any adjustments to those parameters, as well as they received the preferred lenders list and asked if they have their own lender that they are pre-approved with. If they don't answer, you can decide if you're going to leave a message. I personally would leave something like, hey, this is Amy. I was just wanting to follow up with you. I'll try you later this week. Okay. And then you're also going to follow up with a text message. Okay. So email with preferred lenders, follow up phone call, and follow up text message. Day 3, I'm going to send them the home buying information packet or a pre-listing packet if it was a potential seller. I'm going to select a property from their property search and I'm going to text it to them with a note saying, hey, this new property just came on the market. You might like it. Let me know if you would like to schedule a time to go see it. Or what would be a good time to go see it? Right? So that's day 3. Day 4, we're going to send out an email with tips for being prepared for a home purchase. Yes, you do have to put these emails together. No, I did not write them for you. Call to follow up. If they answer, just check in to see if they've been reviewing the information that you've been sending and work to set an appointment with them to either go over the home buying process or to see if they want to go see any homes. If they don't answer, just leave a quick message letting them know to have a great weekend and let them know if they have any housing needs or want to see properties available that you are there for them. And then also follow up with a text message as well. Okay, this plan would assume the open house was on Saturday or Sunday, that you took a weekday off. For instance, if you held the home open on Saturday, you took Sunday, Monday off, and then did your follow-up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So day 4 would be to have a great weekend, right? That's going to give you 5 text messages, 4 emails, not counting the daily property search emails. Those are bonuses, 2 phone calls, and a mailed thank you card. Okay, if you don't have their address, give them another call during the week to replace that thank you card. That way you make sure you have 12 interactions. Okay, once we get to, if we haven't interacted with them still by the end of that week, they're not responding to us, we haven't had a conversation with them, then weeks 2 through 9, we're going to roll them into the 8x8 plan where you're going to work to interact with them 1 time per week for the next 8 weeks. And if they still don't respond, we haven't made contact with them by the end of the 8 weeks, then we're going to roll them over to the 19 plus to connect. Okay. If they start responding to us, they answer our phone call, we have a conversation with us, they respond to text messages at any point during the 12x1 or the 8x8, then we're going to move them over to that 30 plus interaction plan to convert them into a client. So remember, it's 19 to connect and 30 to convert. So once we've connected with them, we always put them on a 30 plus plan. Any questions about the open house system and process? Was this helpful to you guys to see how to lay it out on a weekly basis and what kind of steps or action steps would be taken on a daily basis, including follow-up? Yes, no, maybe so. Very helpful. Iris is very helpful. Good. Fabulous. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. I'm sorry for going over the time. Thank you for giving me some extra minutes of your day. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We will be back next week as well with more specifics on different lead generation methods. They'll be similar to this with giving you action steps to plug straight into your calendar. Have a great day and a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.